Some founders are about to spend the next few weeks, maybe even months, trying to force AI into their business, and many will burn thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours before realizing it wasn't even the right thing to automate. So, in this video, I'm going to share a simple system you can use to evaluate when AI actually makes sense and when it's just a very expensive hobby. By the way, I am Tarek. I built a small software business that ran in about 12 hours a week after designing the right systems, and since then I've been obsessed with learning how to build businesses that work for your life and not the other way around. And over the years, I noticed something interesting. When founders try to automate things, they almost always look at the same few factors and stop there. So let's start with those first. How often does this actually happen? Daily, weekly, monthly? The more frequently something occurs, the higher the priority it gets. Now, frequency alone can be a little misleading, because if something happens every day but only takes 1 minute, it's not nearly as big of a problem as something that quietly eats 8 hours every week. So how much time it actually consumes is just as important, if not more, than how often it happens. The next one is a bit more indirect, but it still matters. Although, interestingly, some people often overvalue this one. Think about that task you absolutely dread, the one that just gives you the ache thinking about it. Now imagine it just disappeared from your to-do list or your teams. Would things actually feel easier? If removing it truly makes things smoother, it gets a point. But people, as I said, often overvalue this one because the goal isn't to reduce clicks, the goal is to reduce thinking, and that constant low-level anxiety of knowing something might break when you're not working. Now, from here on, things get a little more interesting. Have you heard of the driving to a cheaper gas station problem? It's a thing, and that's where people drive across town just to save 3 cents a gallon without thinking if it's actually saving them money. And that applies to using AI too. So always ask, does it actually impact revenue or profitability measurably? The more directly it affects money, the more important it becomes. Now, imagine tomorrow is the best day your business has ever had. Twice the orders, twice the clients. Now ask yourself something important. If your business suddenly doubled tomorrow, would this break? Does automating this process make your business easier to scale? If it helps the business handle more growth without chaos, it earns points. Next, let's talk about what happens when things go wrong. Picture this, it's Monday morning and you wake up to a flood of notifications. Something broke while you were asleep. Customers are stuck, your inbox is blown up with complaints. Maybe it even escalates into a legal headache or a refund nightmare. How bad would your day get if this task failed tomorrow morning? If the downside is big, this needs fixing. Alright, that was a little intense, but some problems don't look dramatic. They don't crash your website, they don't break your systems. In fact, they might be quietly slowing everything down in your business right now. By the way, if you are thinking, man, I wish someone built this as a tool that calculates all of this, I've got you. I actually built this initially as an internal tool to use it with clients, but I'm a generous guy and I decided to give it away for free. So the link is in the description if you want. This is where some of the most expensive problems in a business hide. You could be spending hundreds of thousands on marketing, finally getting people interested, only for them to sit there waiting for a reply, for a confirmation, waiting for the next step, and eventually they just move on. If a task causes leads to wait or deals to stall, it deserves some brownie points. So, factor number 6, does this block important functions in the business? This next one requires brutal honesty. We are going to talk about the tasks you probably do every day without even thinking, like pressing the elevator button 3 more times just in case the elevator did not hear it the first time. Part of the routine, something that's always been there. And that is, does this actually matter for the business, or is it just a thing you do? If you struggle to clearly explain why this task exists, there is a good chance it's just a vanity process you got used to. But if it's essential, it gets bonus points. Now, here comes the slightly sad part. If you think having a good use case is all you need, I'm sorry to break it to you, there are still 4 more factors that can completely make or break an automation. Because even if something should be automated, it might still not be possible. So to build successful automations, these next 4 factors need to be close to perfect. Because automation loves structure, and when software gets confused, It doesn't ask questions, it just breaks. Here is the first thing I always check. Where's the data actually living? Is it sitting nicely in an Excel sheet, a database, or an API, or is it just scattered across printed papers, scanned PDFs, and files named fan or version 7? If the data is clean and digital, it earns merit points. Next up is where most businesses quietly fall apart. Imagine handing this task to your team. Would they know what to do? Or would they just stare at the screen, panic, and call you every 5 minutes? Or worse, would everyone just start doing it differently? See the problem? If the process only exists in your head, AI won't magically figure it out either. But if the process is clear, even if it's not written down in a fancy SOP, and you could teach it to someone else in a few minutes, it earns champion points. Now, some workflows are simple until you start digging. That's when you notice 48 steps, 3 approvals, and constant changes. Suddenly you are spotting every moving part, realizing how often it changes, and that you'll probably end up babysitting it just to keep it alive. If just thinking about this stresses you out, automation probably won't help much. The more complicated and unstable something is, the heavier it becomes to automate. The simpler and more stable the process is, the more points it gets. And here is the question that can make or break the whole thing. Can this actually run without reinventing the wheel? Or will you spend months trying to build something from scratch, basically starting a software company just to automate one task? Because if the tools aren't there, you're in it for the long haul. So if the tools are available and they cost less than you expect return, then great, it gets a point. But if no tools exist that actually fit the job, then it's game over, immediate scratch. Now, the point here is this. AI is just another tool. Like, I don't know, good old Excel, which is, by the way, was revolutionary when it first came out. The real freedom doesn't come from tools, it comes from how you design your business. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out my last video.